What if I told you that a single small copper coin, something most people would overlook in pocket change, could quietly hold the power to shock collectors, spark bidding wars, and in rare cases be worth far more than its 1 cent face value, and yet most people have no idea they're even looking at it correctly? Because hidden inside the world of old American pennies is a coin that carries history, scarcity, and subtle details that separate a 1 cent piece from a collectible treasure. And today, we're focusing on one of the most misunderstood yet highly searched coins in U.S. numismatics, the 1935 Lincoln Wheat penny with the D mint mark. Before you dismiss it as just an old penny, understand this: coins like this are exactly where beginners miss opportunities and experienced collectors make discoveries. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to identify it, what makes it valuable, what errors to look for, how condition changes everything, and why some of these coins have sold for far more than expected. Let's step into 1935 for a moment. The United States was still in the grip of the Great Depression. People were saving every cent, literally. The Lincoln Wheat penny, designed by Victor David Brenner, had already been in circulation for over 2 decades, becoming one of the most iconic coins in American history. On the obverse, you see Abraham Lincoln's profile, honoring the 16th president. On the reverse, 2 wheat stalks frame the words 1 cent and United States of America, symbolizing prosperity and unity. Now, the 1935 issue was struck at 3 mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The D mint mark specifically indicates it was minted in Denver. That small letter under the date is more than just a mark, it's a key that tells you where your coin was born. But here's where things get interesting. The 1935 D wheat penny had a mintage of over 47 million coins. That sounds like a lot, and it is. So why does anyone care today? Because survival in high grades is the real story. Most of these coins entered circulation immediately. They were used in vending machines, handled during daily transactions, stored in jars, lost in couches, and worn down over decades. Finding one today is easy. Finding one in exceptional condition is the real challenge. And this is where collectors start paying attention. Let's break down what actually determines value. First, condition, also known as grade. A heavily circulated 1935 D penny might only be worth a few cents to a couple of dollars. But if you find one in extremely fine condition, with sharp details, minimal wear on Lincoln's cheek and jawline, and strong wheat lines on the reverse, the value can increase significantly. In mint-state condition, meaning it never really entered circulation, it can become a completely different story. Second, strike quality. Not all 1935 D pennies were struck perfectly. Some show weak details due to die wear or production issues at the Denver Mint. Strong strikes with full detail are more desirable. Third, luster. Original mint luster is a glowing, cartwheel-like shine that moves when you tilt the coin under light. If that luster is intact and unbroken, collectors take notice immediately. Now let's talk about something even more exciting: errors and varieties. While the 1935 D wheat penny is not famous for major dramatic errors like some other Lincoln cents, it can still show collectible anomalies. These include repunched mint marks, minor die cracks, off-center strikes, and lamination errors. A repunched D mint mark, for example, happens when the mint mark was punched into the die more than once, slightly misaligned. Under magnification, this can add premium interest to the coin. Die cracks are another fascinating feature. As dies aged during production, they sometimes developed cracks that transferred onto coins. A coin with a visible die crack running through Lincoln's portrait or across the wheat reverse can become a unique collectible piece. But here's something most beginners miss entirely: eye appeal. 2 coins can have the same grade on paper, yet one can sell for noticeably more simply because it looks better. Clean surfaces, balanced toning, and strong contrast all matter. Now let's talk about how to actually identify a genuine 1935 D Lincoln Wheat penny. Next coin in 1946, the United States was emerging from one of the most defining moments in world history. World War II had just ended. The economy was shifting, soldiers were returning home, industries were converting from wartime production, and everyday American life was entering a new era of optimism and rebuilding. And right in the middle of this transition, the U.S. Mint produced one of the most iconic coins in American history, the Lincoln wheat penny. The design itself wasn't new in 1946. The Lincoln cent had already been in circulation since 1909, created to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin features Lincoln's profile on the front and 2 wheat stalks on the back, symbolizing prosperity and unity. But the 1946 penny is special for reasons most people don't realize at first glance. Now let's talk about the no mint mark detail, because this is where most of the confusion and opportunity begins. A mint mark tells you where a coin was produced. In 1946, pennies were struck at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Denver have a D, San Francisco coins have an S, and Philadelphia coins traditionally had no mint mark at all. So when we say 1946 no mint mark Lincoln wheat penny, we are referring to coins struck in Philadelphia. And here's the important part: Philadelphia struck the highest number of pennies that year. We're talking hundreds of millions of coins. That massive production is exactly why most 1946 no mint mark pennies are extremely common today. But common does not mean worthless, and this is where things get interesting. Because value in coin collecting is not just about age. It's about condition, rarity within that condition, and unique mint errors that separate ordinary coins from collectible ones. Let's break this down in a way that actually makes sense. A regular 1946 no mint mark wheat penny that has circulated heavily, meaning it's been used in everyday transactions, handled for decades, scratched, worn, and faded, is usually worth only a few cents to maybe $1 or $2 depending on demand. But the moment you step into higher grades, uncirculated condition, mint state, or coins with full original red copper luster, the story changes dramatically. A 1946 wheat penny in mint state condition can range from a few dollars to significantly more, depending on its grade. And in top-tier grades, especially MS-65 and above, values can rise into the tens or even hundreds of dollars at auction. But here's where collectors really start paying attention: errors and varieties. Because the real hidden value in a 1946 no mint mark penny often has nothing to do with the date itself, and everything to do with what went wrong during production. Let's start with one of the most famous types of errors: repunched mint marks or RPMs. Now, in the case of no mint mark Philadelphia coins, RPMs don't apply directly, but other striking errors absolutely do. You want to look for things like off-center strikes, where the design is shifted dramatically from the center of the coin. Die cracks, where the metal dies used to strike the coin start to wear out and create raised lines across the surface. Lamination errors, where the metal of the coin begins to flake or peel due to impurities in the planchet. And double die errors, where the design is struck more than once in slightly different positions, creating a shadowed or doubled appearance. A true double die 1946 wheat penny can significantly increase value, especially if the doubling is visible in key areas like the date, the word liberty, or in God we trust. But here's something most beginners miss: not every doubling is a valuable error. Machine doubling, which is common and flat in appearance, usually adds no premium at all. Real doubling has depth, separation, and distinct characteristics that experienced collectors recognize immediately. Now let's talk about another major factor: color grading. Copper coins naturally change color over time. A freshly minted penny starts as a bright, glowing red. Over time, exposure to air causes oxidation, turning the coin brown. There's also an intermediate red-brown stage. In the coin world, color matters more than most people expect. A 1946 no mint mark wheat penny that retains full red luster can be worth significantly more than the same coin in brown, even at the same grade level. Collectors often categorize copper coins as RD, red, RB, red-brown, or BN, brown, and that classification alone can shift value dramatically. Now imagine combining everything we've talked about so far: a 1946 no-mint mark wheat penny in high mint state condition, with full red color and a rare mint error. That's when you move from common coin territory into serious collector interest. Next coin, the 1951 Lincoln wheat penny with the D mint mark, was struck at the Denver Mint during a time when the United States was transitioning through the post-war economic boom. The country was producing massive amounts of coinage to support a growing economy, and pennies were being used everywhere: stores, vending machines, gas stations, and daily trade. That means billions of pennies entered circulation, and the 1951 D was one of them. On paper, that sounds like it destroys any chance of rarity. And in most cases, that's true. The mintage for the 1951 D penny was extremely high, making it a very common coin in circulated condition today. But here's where things get interesting, because rarity in coin collecting is not just about how many were made. It's about how many survive in exceptional condition, how many have mint errors, and how many collectors actually want them. And that's where the story changes completely. Let's start with condition, because this is where most of the value is either created or lost. A 1951 D penny that has been heavily circulated, meaning it has scratches, wear, dull surfaces, and faded details, is usually only worth 1 cent, maybe slightly more to someone filling a coin album. But if that same coin is preserved in uncirculated condition, meaning it never really entered circulation or was stored carefully for decades, the value begins to rise sharply. Now we enter the world of grading. Coins are evaluated on a scale from 1 to 70. Most circulated pennies fall somewhere between good 4 and extremely fine 40. But uncirculated coins start at MS60 and can go all the way up to MS70, which is essentially perfect. And here's the key idea that changes everything: small differences in condition can multiply value dramatically. A coin that looks just a little cleaner might actually be worth 10 times more under professional grading. For the 1951 D wheat penny, uncirculated examples can range from a few dollars to over $50 depending on quality. That's already a massive jump from 1 cent. But we still haven't reached the most exciting part yet. Because the real attention in the coin world doesn't come from normal coins, it comes from mistakes. Mint errors are what turn ordinary pennies into collectible treasures. One of the most sought-after types of errors is called double die. This happens when the design on the coin is accidentally impressed twice during the minting process, creating a slight doubling effect on letters or numbers. If you look closely at a 1951 D wheat penny and notice doubling on the words Liberty or In God We Trust, that coin could be significantly more valuable than a normal example. Another type of error involves the mint mark itself. Sometimes the D mint mark appears slightly doubled or repunched due to the way it was manually added to the die in that era. These repunched mint marks are subtle, but collectors actively search for them because they represent genuine minting variations. Now imagine this for a moment: 2 coins that look almost identical at first glance. Same year, same design, same mint. But one has a tiny misalignment or doubling that most people would never notice. That small detail could be the difference between a 1-cent coin and a $50 collectible. That's the reality of coin collecting. Now let's talk about how you can actually identify a 1951 D wheat penny properly. First, you confirm the date. It should clearly read 1951 on the obverse side. Next, look just below the date. If there is a small d, that confirms it was minted in Denver. If there is no mint mark at all, it was minted in Philadelphia instead. Then flip the coin over. You should see the classic wheat reverse design, with 2 wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. This wheat design is what gives the entire series its nickname, Wheat Pennies. Now here's where serious collectors go deeper. They don't just look at the design, they study it under magnification. Because details matter. They look at Lincoln's hair, beard, and cheekbone structure. Strong details suggest better preservation. Weak or flat details suggest rare or weak strikes from the mint. They inspect the wheat stalks for sharpness and definition. They look for die cracks, which appear as raised lines on the surface of the coin. They search for doubling in letters. And they carefully examine the mint mark placement. All of this is because coins are not just currency, they are physical records of how they were made. Now let's address something very important that confuses a lot of beginners.